Sunny Rabot Live now featuring Major General Chris Olukolade. He's retired now, but he was Director of Military Information in the Nigerian Army. And of course, it also means that he was the military spokesman. Now, we're about to discuss with him. Welcome, sir. Thank you so much. I should say welcome to my program, Sunny Rabot Live. How are you?
Very well. Thank you, sir. It's good meeting you again.
It's a pleasure. So, well, I want to believe that you saw Mr. Ogieboegbe talking about the report. So, my own is from where he left off, we talked about 30 states out of 36 states of Nigeria where military is currently involved, very engaged in trying to, tackle with insecurity. Now, you were a military spokesperson and Director of Military Information. How do you see all of these things now that you are retired? And what do you think should be done to curtail it?
Well, thank you. As to what I see with regards to this development, well, the military did not bring itself out in the first place. It is a situation that called for the deployment, and definitely that's a constitutional backing, because there's constitutional provision for how to deploy the military in aid of civil authorities and in curbing situations such as the one we are facing, like insurgency and terrorism. Gradually, that's how we came this far. We will note that right from the beginning, when it was getting escalated, as far back as 2009, the Nigerian Armed Forces was called out to engage the terrorists, particularly in the Northeast, and to curb it. From that moment till now, they've been involved, along with those who were in it initially, to manage it. But the important thing is to know that their involvement, by virtue of constitutional rule and duty, as mandated through due authority.
Well, the Nigerian Army and the military, for that, generally is saddled with the, protection of the territorial integrity of the country, right? Well, from what we are seeing now, it looks like the military is doing more of police work than military work. Doesn't that tell you a lot of things, that things are not really going the way they ought to be?
Well, to some extent, but the problem being managed has some military implication when it has gone beyond the ordinary internal security matter. This has gone to the level of even international connection of terrorists that are operating within the country. To match that kind of situation definitely calls for military action. And that is the reason why the military was deployed to get involved. And I really can't understand the difference, as we were saying, it's not their duty. The complexity of the matter definitely calls for the level of action that got the military involved.
Okay, all right. Let's look at it in two different perspectives. There are bandits within the country. There's Boko Haram.
Yeah.
And there you have so many intrusions. I use the word intrusions because from nowhere, people are inside Nigeria and nobody seems to be doing anything about it. Why is the government not saying anything? I don't know, you are retired now, so you may not be very, very active. But then, what do you think is responsible for the seeming inactivity on the part of government to curtail these intrusions?
Well, yeah, it's good to define it as intrusion. Maybe whatever caused it in the first place, to have allowed miscreants, some of them external, to have come into the country through inexplicable means and operating to disturb the peace and security in the country. That certainly gives concern. And where we agree with you to some extent is the need for some political will to tackle it. And that in itself will relate to the mandates given to those charged to curtail the nuisance, because clearly this is an action that can be called as nuisance, for the fact that the military can only be deployed through political directives, and there are those that have the political authorities to take action and deploy the military to get involved in this kind of situation. They too must have read it and found that the only action that can engage this and curtail it to the level we have now definitely requires military involvement. It's unfortunate that we came this far, but I think that the authorities concerned are not folding their hands. We got this far all in the bid to find solutions to those who choose to come and trouble the peace of our country.
How would you react to information reaching us that some states in Nigeria have already been taken over, some local governments have already been taken over by bandits, by people who found themselves, you mentioned the word incursion earlier, and I just wondered why that could have even happened at all. So I believe that you have military intelligence, you have police intelligence, and you have all that, paraphernalia of security control. What are we doing? What is government doing to ensure that these things doesn't get beyond what it is right now? Because I'm really believing that it's going to get out of hand if we don't do something fast.
Yeah, I think this concern too has been there right from when the military was involved in curbing it. The concern has been that it had to be curbed as quickly as possible. One thing we possibly have not paid attention to is that this level of insecurity was not common around us. So when the military was involved, it has to repackage its training, its equipment, its strategies to deal with it. And that has been, constantly changing, all with a lead to coping. And from all indications, the response to managing the situation has been improving over the time, all in reaction to better understanding of what we are confronting. And I think that the military and others along with them to curb the insecurity have this understanding. I've read the report that was being discussed. Some of the recommendations there are very, very plausible, but somehow some of them are already known. I see an indication pointing to the fact that we need an all of society approach to curb this insecurity. And that is possibly the present dimension that government is looking at. You will have been hearing terminologies such as non-kinetic and all those terminologies that are beginning to be in the public space. My own position on this is that the non-kinetic should be the business or the political authorities, while the military engage the criminals and get them flushed out.
Is the military well equipped enough? Is the police well equipped enough? Are all these, interventionist agencies, are they well equipped? Because it appears they are not very well equipped. That's why sometimes they can be overwhelmed by banditry, by insurgents and all that.
To some extent, you may be right, but you see, the idea of equipment is relative. My own observation is that the equipment of the military and the other security agencies have been improving over time. What they have at the moment is definitely above what they used to have at the beginning of the operations. So you see that the response have been improving over time, like I said earlier, as a matter of response to managing the situation in a better way. I had Ogie saying earlier that the terrorists are more sophistication. The idea of sophistication is relative, actually. For a conventional professional outfit engaging, terrorists or fighters without professional training requires some care and caution. And there's considering the fact that we are fighting within the nation, requires also the modification and the level of weapons that could be deployed. Whereas you cannot say such with regards to the terrorists. When the terrorists use what is supposed to be an anti-aircraft weapon on direct roll against citizens, they don't see it as abnormal. But for a trained soldier, he knows what should be directed at the direct roll engagement in combat, as against what should be used as anti-aircraft and all those things. For the terrorists, they don't know this difference. They just get a weapon and use it anyhow. You don't expect that people who are professionally trained will also be responding or acting like terrorists. Maybe that's what people refer to as sophistication.
Yes. What is this talk about collusion between military, police, and bandits and miscreants? Is there some kind of internal, betrayal of the system that empowers and enables the bandits to go to the extent they go? They're approaching the whole matter with a daredevil approach. That doesn't sound right to me.
Yeah, it doesn't sound right to anybody. But the allegation has always been there from the beginning. This conspiracy theory idea has always been touted here and there. I think the much of it that the system ever found have never been spared. Where anybody is found to be in collaboration or incompetent response for whatever reason, the system have proved to be intolerant of such tendencies. And to persist in believing that that is the ideal approach of the system may not be fair to the military. Unfortunately, this is the kind of outcome of involvement in this. It makes them bear all the blame, all the brunt of the situation, while those who deploy them, the political authorities, the politicians, get away and even join in the criticism. But the long and short of what I want to say is that the tendencies of conspiracy between the officials and the terrorists is not as overwhelming as imagined. Yes, one cannot completely rule it out, but to the best of my knowledge, anyone found in such tendencies have always been, severely dealt with.
We know that those in power are accused by, using your phrase now, conspiracy theorists, of conniving with the criminals. If this is the case, there's nobody who is above the law. Why is government not doing anything about it? These things, they worry people like us. And I just wonder, to what extent can anybody now be patient enough to take this kind of a thing and not see it have a reversal of it?
Well, that's unfortunate, but I don't think it's a problem of the military. That's for politicians to really resolve. And I think that issues such as this should be directed at those who are political authorities. Like I mentioned initially, the military and other agencies are deployed as a matter of duty, and that's what they are doing. All other things about non-kinetic dimension of engaging terrorists should focus on those who bear responsibility in that direction. I think it's not fair to be expecting the military to also be explaining the laxities in the political management of the situation, while they are also doing the professional aspect of curbing the insecurity that is a problem to everybody. I don't think they are enjoying it either, but they're doing it as a matter of duty to country. And quite often it could be demoralizing to want to look the military system into explaining this kind of unfortunate tendency. I mentioned earlier the political will. The people fighting the terrorists also have, the intellect to read the body language of political masters and know where there is adequate political will to give them the required mandate to handle the situation without any kind of compromise. All they are doing now is doing their best as much as training and professional understanding permits them. Quite often, I would suggest that the questions related to people who have been colluding and collaborating with political backing or whatever should focus on the people who have such a responsibility.
What is the role of a defense? You have a military defense advisor. You have a chief of defense staff, chief of this, chief of that. What are their roles? They have direct access to the president, and don't they? So what should be their role, and what do you advise them to do in this scenario that we have seen, where there's so much terrorism, there's so much insecurity, and it appears as if, sorry to say this, it's as if the military is not doing anything. But you already say they are doing a lot. So what can we do to ensure that governance and military are in symbiotic relationship that can make them do something that the people will see and feel?
Well, I think there's no doubt with recent exploits that we are seeing on the part of the military, there's no doubt that the present system, that is the chief of defense staff and his officers, have proved up to the task, and the advances we've seen in the battlefront lately, particularly in the north, east, and northwest, gives sufficient reason to believe that the best from their part is paying off. In terms of relating with the political authorities, I think they are managing it very well. It calls for a lot of tact not to get pissed off with some directives. But from all indications, the present leadership of the military is managing that relationship very well. And it's certainly paying off in the field. Not everybody will agree with you that not much is being achieved. I think a lot is being achieved lately in particular. And it could be more encouraging for us to accept that. Now back to the report that Ogie was discussing. I tried to study that report myself, and I see a lot of recommendations there that are just good for the government itself to pay attention to. So what I will really encourage, particularly as an input from our center, the Center for Crisis Communication, is that as much as possible, the political leadership should pay attention to these recommendations. About 10 of them, and most of them are focusing. The focus there is really not questioning the professional capability of the military and security agencies. Rather, it is talking more about issues that could be solved by political intervention. Issues such as, community and state taking ownership of the situation and just leaving the military to sort out the things, and others. Like I said, the 10 recommendations, as much as possible, the media should draw the attention of the political leadership to those recommendations, and spare the military of the stress of even having to join in explaining the situation that's really not their business. I will hold on to my earlier position that the idea of non-kinetic is more of a political issue to be handled by political system, and let the military keep facing the matter in the field. And from all indications, it is paying off. The two areas that the report focused on, that is the Benue Basin and the southeast part of the Federation. There are peculiar cases. Yes, again, the military have to be involved in solving it. But it is good to know that the peculiarity of these mission areas also call for special approaches. Their recommendations and their observations will prove useful to those managing it.
Thank you very much, Major General Chris Olukolade. You're retired, yes, but you're very active. You don't look tired. So thank you so much. We need brains like you to always come to our intervention. All right? Thank you, sir. God bless you.
Thank you so much, guys. My pleasure.
Yes.